What up, YouTube? It's your boy Charles Enoch. You already know we back with another Invest in Myself episode. So let's get the intro started. Since the holiday season is coming upon us, we know a lot of people are going to be doing a lot of holiday shopping. So I want to go over a velocity banking strategy that will help you pay off your credit card without paying any interest. But before we get into it, you already know your boy has to do the YouTube thing. Your boy's getting close to getting monetized, so I'm gonna ask you guys, help a brother out. If you haven't done so yet, take a little time, smash the like button for me, make that thing turn blue. Also, if you're new to the channel or just haven't done so yet, take time, hit that subscribe button for me and leave a comment down below. And if you enjoy my content, please remember to donate to my Patreon page. I appreciate anybody that takes the time to do these little things for me because it does help me reach a broader audience base. So I talked about this strategy before, but I feel like it's the perfect time to reiterate the strategy and come with another example, especially since after the holiday season, a lot of you guys are going to be looking at your credit cards, shaking your head like, dang, did I spend this much money? Anyways, one thing that we want to get in our mind when we're using this strategy is that income pays credit, credit pays expenses. Since our credit card is a revolving line of credit, meaning that you can put money in and then turn around and instantly use that money. So for example, if I had a $2,000 balance on my credit card and I have $2,000 in my bank account, I can use my $2,000 to pay off my credit card, thus in turn use my credit card to pay for anything that I need. So we can look at your $2,000 as a transfer to your credit card from your bank account. If we have consistent positive cash flow, we're able to transfer our money onto the credit card and pay it off in full to avoid any interest. We then use the credit card to pay our expenses. If our income's higher than our expenses, positive cash flow, then money will be left on the credit card, thus slowly paying it back and paying it off. Now I know this sounds complicated, but you already know I got the whiteboard in the back, so we about to break this down like a fraction. Come on, let's go. All right, so I'm at the whiteboard. You already know we get straight down to business here. So we're gonna say that we have a couple and their income's gonna be $8,500 that they get per month, and their expenses per month are gonna be $8,500. Part of those expenses are gonna be their rent, which is gonna be $2,500 per month, leaving their cash flow, $8,500 minus $8,000, their cash flow is $500. Now, they have a credit card balance of $6,000. So let's say that they spent $6,000 during the holiday season, and they're scratching their heads, are like, dang, we spent $6,000. How are we gonna pay this off? And the minimum payment per month on that card on the due date every month is $250. And we're gonna say that the interest is 35%. So it's a really high interest rate. What are they gonna do? Now, we have to remember before we start breaking this information down on how they're gonna pay this card off without accruing any interest. The velocity banking strategy, income is gonna pay the credit and the credit is gonna pay the expenses. And then we're gonna keep on repeating that until we pay off the credit card. All right, so we're on the other side of the board. So we're gonna break this thing down. So we're gonna say that it is January 1st. They're looking at that $6,000 credit card. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna look at the equation of what we're pretty much doing here. So we're gonna take $6,000 of our income, wherever it falls in. If you get paid bi-weekly, weekly, monthly, we're gonna take $6,000. We're gonna put that onto the credit card. And we're gonna pay $6,000 off, which means that the credit card is paid in full. Now, when the credit card is paid in full, it means that it frees up some cash flow, right? So we're going to free up $250 of cash flow. And then it's going to minus our expenses. Part of our expenses are $250 because the minimum payment on the credit card is $250. So out of the $8,000 of expenses, we're going to take off $250 because it's not an expense anymore, right? We paid the credit card off in full. So that is step one. $6,000 of income, we're going to transfer that on to the credit card. Now, the remainder income, the $2,500, we're going to use that to pay our rent. We got to keep the roofs over our head. Now, I know it's a perfect situation, perfect scenario. I want this to be easy for you guys. So the rest of the income, remember, they get $8,500. They're using that to pay the rent. Now, the leftover expenses is going to be $5,250, right? So expenses minus the rent minus $250 because we have to take off $250 of those expenses. Now, since we have no extra money and we have to pay just the rent, our remainder expenses are $5,250. So how are we going to pay the remainder of our expenses? Step three, we're going to use our credit card. Remember, we paid this off in full. We transferred $6,000 onto the credit card. We're using our credit card as our bank account. So we transfer $6,000 of our money onto the credit card. Now we're going to use our credit card to pay our expenses. Now, when we do the $6,000 minus $5,250, we get left with $750 on our credit card. So that's as much as we paid off on our credit card. So you see that our cash flow once was $500. It increased by $250 because we paid our credit card off, which we see $750 at the end of the month. So let's look at the end of January. Our debt is $5,250. The amount that we paid off is $750. And now, since we paid the credit card off in full for that month, there was zero interest charged. Zero interest charge, because again, we paid it off in full. All right, so we're in the month of February. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna look at how we ended in January here. So the debt on our credit card is $5,250. So the first thing that we're gonna do is go to this equation, step one. We're gonna take $5,250 of our income and we're gonna transfer that onto our credit card, which means that pays it off in full. Once something's paid off in full on the credit card, zero interest accrues, right? So what this does is, since the credit card, the minimum payment was $250 per month, it increases our cash flow by $250 and it decreases our expenses by $250. So step one, we always gonna be paying off that credit card in full to avoid any type of interest. Now, step number two, we're gonna take the remainder of our income. Remember, our income's $8,500. So the remainder is $3,250. We are going to first pay the rent. We got to keep the roof over our head, right? So that is the first most important thing we're going to do. After we pay the rent, we're going to take the remainder expenses and we're going to apply that to our other expenses, right? So when we take the remainder income minus that by the expenses, we're going to get $4,500 left on expenses. So we're going to go to the next step. We're going to use our credit card. Remember, we paid it off in full, so our credit card has $6,000 on it that we can use. And we're going to pay the remainder expenses with that. So our remainder expenses are $4,500, right? And if we do the math, we're going to have $1,500 left on our credit card. And that is pretty much what we have paid off on our credit card throughout those 2 months. So our cash flow is $750. Now remember, when we're thinking about this, our income is paying the credit and the credit is paying the expenses. So let's look at how the end of February looks here. So at the end of February, our total debt on the card is $4,500. The amount that we paid off is $1,500. And again, the interest is a big fat zero because we pay the credit card off in full every single month. All right, so we're in the month of March. We're gonna keep breaking this down until it is drilled in y'all head. So in the month of March, we gotta see what transpired at the end of February, right? So our debt at the end of February is $4,500. What's the first thing that we're gonna do? We're gonna use our income to pay the credit, right? So we're gonna use $4,500. We're gonna transfer that, pay the credit card off, the $4,500 that's on the credit card. What that particularly is gonna do, we already know. It's gonna increase our cash flow by $250, decrease our expenses by $250. And since we paid the credit card off in full for this month, big fat zero in interest. So the next step, we're gonna use our remainder income, $4,000. We're gonna first pay our rent. That's the most important thing, roof over the head, right? So once we pay our rent off, we're gonna have about $1,500 left. We're gonna apply that to the rest of our expenses. When we do that, we're gonna have a remainder $3,750 that we have to pay for expenses for the month. Now, how are we gonna pay those expenses? We already know we're gonna use our credit. So our credit card, we paid it off, is back up to $6,000. We're going to use some of that to pay off the rest of our expenses of $3,750. We do the math, we see that we have $2,250 left on the card. So that's as much as we paid off. So let's do overall for the month of March. So March, our debt is $3,750. The amount that we've paid off so far is $2,250. And the interest that has accrued, big fat zero. All right, so we're in the month of April and we feeling good. So let's break this down again, drill it in y'all heads. So for the month of April, we have to see what has transpired at the end of March. So the end of March, we have our debt on our card at $3,750. We already know we're going to use our income to pay our credit. Income pays credit. So we're going to take $3,750 and we're going to transfer that onto our credit card to pay off $3,750. We already know the good stuff that it does. It is going to increase our cash flow by $250 and decrease our expenses by $250 because the minimum payment per month on that credit card is $250. So the next step, we are going to use our remainder income, which will be $4,750. We're going to first apply it towards the rent, roof over the head. We got to keep it going. We need a place to survive. Once we do that, our remainder funds after the rent, we're going to apply that towards our expenses. When we do that, the remainder expenses that we have to pay off is $3,000. Now, how are we going to pay our expenses? We already know our credit pays our expenses. So let's go to the next step. We're going to use that credit card. And then we're going to pay our expenses with the credit card. The expenses are $3,000. Credit card got a $6,000 balance. Leaves us at $3,000 remaining on our credit card. So let's take a look at where we're at halfway, okay? So for the month of April, our debt is $3,000. The amount that we paid has been $3,000. And the interest is a big fat zero because once again, we are paying the credit card off in full every single month. All right, so we're in the month of May. That's my birthday month. So you already know we feeling good, right? So let's break this thing down. Let's hammer it in y'all head. So what we need to do first is figure out how we ended in the month of April. So the month of April, our credit card debt is $3,000. So we already know income is going to pay our credit. So we're going to use $3,000 of our income, transfer that onto the credit card. That's going to pay that thing off in full. It is going to increase our cash flow by $250 and decrease our expenses by $250. Now, our next step, we're going to use our remainder income, which is going to be $5,500 first to pay our rent, keep the roof over our head, keep breathing, keep living, all that good stuff. So we pay our rent. The remainder money out of that, we're going to pay our expenses. Now we're going to have a remainder amount for expenses, which is going to be $2,250. Now, how are we going to pay our expenses? We already know our credit is going to pay our expenses, right? So we're going to go to the next step. Our credit card is $6,000. It's paid off in full. We avoided that interest. Now we're going to use our credit card to repay the remainder expenses of $2,250. Now what's going to be left over on our credit card? $3,750. So let's see how we're doing in May, right? So in May, our total debt is $2,250. The amount that we paid off is $3,750. And the interest that has accrued is a big fat zero. Remember, we are paying this off in full every single month. All right, we about to end it here soon. We in the month of June. So we already know we have to figure out what the month of May ended off with here. So the month of May, the debt was $2,250. So the first thing we're gonna do is take our income and pay off the credit here. So we're gonna take $2,250, pay off the credit card, which in turn pays it in full. Zero interest has accrued. The other thing that's gonna happen is gonna increase our cash flow by $250, and it's gonna decrease our expenses by $250. Now the second thing is we're gonna take our remainder income, $6,250, first apply it to the rent. After we apply it to the rent, we're gonna apply the remainder amount to our expenses. We're gonna have a leftover amount of $1,500 in expenses. Now, how are we gonna pay the expenses off? Easy. We're gonna use credit to pay our expenses. So the next step, our credit card is paid off in full. We got $6,000 on that thing. We're gonna use $1,500 of the $6,000 on our credit card. We're gonna have $4,500 remaining on the credit card. So let's see what this month ended up looking like here. So for the month of June, the total debt on the card is $1,500. The amount that we paid off is $4,500. And that key thing, the interest that has accrued is a big fat zero because we are paying it off every single month in full. All right, so we in the month of July. No lie, this couple is feeling pretty good. So we already know we have to figure out what last transpired in the month of June. So June, we see our total debt is $1,500 on the credit card. So the first thing we're gonna do, we're gonna take our income to pay our credit. So we're gonna take $1,500. We're gonna transfer that onto our credit card of $1,500, pay that thing off in full, avoided the interest. The interest is 0%, right? So now this increases our cash flow by $250, decreases our expenses by $250. So our next step, we're taking our remainder income, $7,500, first applying it towards the rent. Make sure you get that paid off. And then we're going to apply the remainder $5,000 to $5,250 of the expenses. This is going to leave us with $250 left to pay for our expenses. Now, how are we going to pay for these expenses, man? We already know credit is going to pay our expenses. So we're going to use our credit card. We got $6,000 on that credit card. We're going to pay off our $250 of expenses. We do that math, we do the difference. We see that it's $5,250 left on the credit card. So what are we looking like in the month of July? We're looking like July, our debt is $750 remaining on the card. We have paid off $5,250 and that interest is still zero. We're looking good. All right, so we're in the month of August, the last month. Let's go ahead, drill it in y'all heads and get it over with. All right, so for the month of August, we gotta know what we did for the previous month here. So in July, our leftover debt was $750. We already know we're gonna use some of our income. Income pays credit, put that income onto the credit card. So we're gonna say $750. We're gonna put that onto the credit card, which pays that thing off in full, avoiding the interest, zero on interest. This increases our cash flow by $250 and decreases our expenses by $250. Now, the second thing that we're gonna do next step, we're gonna take our remainder income of $7,750. We're gonna first apply that towards the rent, and then second, we're gonna do that towards the other expenses. Now, ironically, our expenses is the same as our remainder income, which leaves our expenses at $0. Now, the next step, our credit card is $6,000 on the zero expenses. Our credit card is $6,000, baby. We have paid this thing off. The couple did not pay any interest, and they're almost ready for the next holiday season. Now, hopefully they learn their lesson and won't be spending that much money, but hey, they can if they know this method, because every single holiday season, they're gonna be ready. Now, a couple things to remember here. Now, if you do have a rewards card, let's say a cashback card, you're gonna be using your card on most of your expenses, which is gonna increase your cash flow by a little bit more, right? So you can apply that to the credit card to get it paid off faster. If you get flight miles or anything like that, I mean, that's a free trip, maybe 2 trips, who knows, right? So with this velocity banking strategy, we are just remembering the income pays the credit, credit is paying our expenses. Since we are paying the credit card off in full every single month, interest is not occurring here. Now, you're gonna have to definitely tailor it to your situation. Again, obviously this is a perfect scenario, so we can just get an understanding, but definitely tailor it to your situation. Sometimes you're able to hit this perfect situation where you're paying zero in interest, but other times you are going to pay in interest, but it's not going to be as much because it's calculated by simple interest. So if you're paying majority of it off in full, they can only apply that interest to the part that you didn't pay off. So it's still going to significantly reduce the interest on your credit card. Now, I hope this was helpful. If it was, definitely do me a favor. It's free. Just smash that like button. Also, if you're new to the channel, go ahead. This is free too. Hit that subscribe button for me. If you do like my content, please remember to donate to my Patreon. Now, that's not free, but if you are gracious enough to donate at least $2 a month, this will be very helpful. And again, leave a comment if you can. And like always, you guys have a good weekend. Peace out.